Hey folks, it's Fernando doing another video here for the Modern Survivalist, and here I have one of the typical emails that I get pretty much on daily basis asking about one country or another. In this case, it's about Belize. Here it says, "Dear Fernando, I have a question. What are your thoughts on Belize? They speak English there and the land is still pretty cheap. And there are Mennonite farmers there. My Spanish, French, and German are all equally bad, so English would be nice. In addition, I have a data business in the States and would be close enough to see clients if I absolutely had to. I would be honored to get your point of view. Also, I plan on buying your books. Warm regards, Dean." Well, Dean, I definitely do recommend you buying my books, especially if you're thinking of moving to another country. Yes, most likely this is the one that you're going to be getting, the one on bugging out and relocating. Now, let's approach what you are asking about Belize. Let's suppose I have no idea whatsoever about Belize, right? Just go here and remember what I always talk about, how important the 3 C's are in terms of corruption, crime, cost of living. If you're balancing those well, if you're talking about a place that is very safe, that there's very little corruption, very little crime, cost of living is very affordable, you probably have something going on there and it's worth looking into. But let's start with corruption. We go to the part 2 of the book about relocating. Right, we check the corruption perception index in page 73. We move to page 73. And here we have all these places. Okay, corruption percentage index, ranking number 1 as the least corrupt place in the world, Denmark, followed by Finland, then New Zealand, Sweden. All these are some of the least corrupt places in the world, all right? And we keep looking, wondering about Belize. You know, Belize maybe there's a little bit of corruption, maybe not. And we go through the entire chart, and Belize is not there. Why is Belize not there? Simply because Belize stopped offering the information to Transparency International in the year 2008 because it was doing so bad that it preferred not to be listed there anymore. Now, if you have Afghanistan, if you have Somalia, if you have Iraq, if you have Venezuela, China listed in terms of corruption and Belize is not there, it probably means that Belize is awfully bad and probably means that you don't want to be going there. But let's continue, let's keep on and continue in terms of crime. The index that I use in my book for crime is homicide. You know, the homicide rate by country. Why I went with that? Because, you know, on one hand, it's not always the case that homicide is directly linked to other crimes, but it usually is somewhat of an accurate representation. Homicide is one of the ways in which you can, you know, it's pretty standard in some regards. You know, a homicide is someone that was killed, all right? That's a pretty a black or white situation. And that's one of the ways in which you can unify all the different aspects, the cultural differences from one country or another. That's why I liked it, so as to have an idea of how bad crime is. On the other hand, though, and this has to be said as well, not all countries consider the same thing to be homicide. All right, some countries have different ideas of what homicide actually is. But in spite of that, you know, and this is, you know, maybe one of the least accurate rates out there, and I always recommend cross-referencing it with the corruption percentage index from Transparency International that I include in the book as well, because if the country is very corrupt, then there's a good chance that the information being provided regarding a true homicide rate is not very accurate. Nonetheless, let's go for it, see how Belize does. We go to page 100. Okay, and we start looking at different homicide rates per 100,000 population. Homicide rate by country. Number 1 as the least dangerous place would be Monaco, 0.0 rate. In number 5 you have Japan, you have Iceland. Number 6 you have Japan. Number 10 you have Norway. In terms of the least, the ones that are ranking best in terms of very low homicide rate. What about Belize? You know, we keep going through different countries. We have Iraq, we have, you know, a number of other countries. You have Iran, you have India. Where is Belize? Belize is actually listed. It is here, and it is in the ranking 203 out of 207. 207 would be Honduras as the worst country in terms of homicide. Belize is 203. Basically, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the 5th worst country in terms of homicide rate per 100,000 people. That's with 41.4. As reference, United States is 4.8. So it's basically 10 times worse in terms of homicide than the United States. Not 2 times, not 5 times, 10 times worse. Right? That means that homicide in Belize is out of proportion, and this is keeping in mind that Belize didn't even bother sending information regarding the corruption problem that they have. So I wouldn't trust nearly as much the information coming out of the United States compared to coming out of Belize. Wouldn't be surprised if it's even much worse than what I was already saying. So this is something that usually happens. People look at a few pictures. They like the pictures of the beaches in Belize, okay, and it's awfully cheap to buy land there. They speak English. That sounds fantastic. They focus on the nice things, or at least the things that they like. They don't see some of the other stuff that's also very, very much important. So keep that in mind. Use the information that I have collected here in my book. It makes all this much easier, not only for different countries. I also collected information regarding different states in the United States. So if you're looking at moving to some other state within US, it will also be useful for you. And use this to be objective regarding some of these things, especially when it comes to crime. That's why I insist so much about corruption and crime. If crime and corruption are a serious problem wherever it is that you're planning on going, then don't even bother looking at some of the other information. Don't even bother at looking at how cheap it is or how nice the climate is. If it's bad in terms of corruption and crime, it's going to be ruining all other aspects of life. Trust me, because I've been through that, and I know what I'm talking about. Even if you're not worried about being about being killed directly, which you should, definitely in a place like Belize, you absolutely should. But even then, the level of crime on the streets means that you're not going to be living in peace. And if you don't have peace, if you don't have peace of mind on your day-to-day life, then nothing else really matters. Nothing else really is going to be changing that, and you shouldn't even consider going to such a place. Folks, that's all for now. Yes, I do recommend my book, and the link is going to be, as always, there below. Share, subscribe to the channel, and that's going to be it. See you on our following video. Have a great day.